My friends and my family, this is Trevor Chapman, modern day man, entrepreneur, achiever, purveyor of the good life, student of life, marketer. After over 10 years in business, tens of millions of dollars, I've learned this one thing. There's too much noise. It takes tactics and strategy. You can't buy it, you earn it through experience. Failure after failure hones the craft. You must become a warrior. It's time to run. The experience you can't buy. You had to have earned it. It's my turn to give back and contribute. I share all of my lessons from 7 to 8 and from 8 to 9 figures. We'll see if it goes from 9 to 10, but I'm gonna give it all to you. Consistency, persistence, dedication, vision, time, discipline, work. I'm gonna give it all to you so that you learn from where I failed and you learn from my experience. My brothers, this is your Daily Fuel.
Welcome, my friends, to another Daily Fuel edition. I'm excited to be with you today. I've got something excellent for you, something that has literally changed my life, and I believe that it too will change your life if you'll allow it in. When I went to college, I was flying back from Russia, and I said, what am I going to do? And literally the thoughts that came to my mind were, how can I impact the world the greatest? And I thought that was through broadcast journalism, really. Like in my mind, that's what I thought. And so I got into communications as a communications major. Something just wasn't right. I wasn't feeling it. Like my professors were having me memorize the amount of acreage that Ted Turner bought in 1970. And I was just like, what does this have to do with journalism? This has nothing to do with journalism. And so one by one, I started to fall away from various classes, and eventually, many years in, I took a philosophy class. And when I took the class, I walked out after the first day, and I felt something inside of me that was a unique sensation that I only felt in moments of quiet solitude on the mountains when I climbed, or under the water when I was diving with my dad as a young man. And I said, you know what, this is what it is. And I started to understand why it was I liked philosophy so much. I swapped my major over, and I spent the next few years being a student of the philosophers. And what it was specifically that I realized I loved about it was that when I would leave my philosophy class, I actually was a better human being. I saw myself differently. See, you can memorize every mathematical formula in the world and be a horrible person. You can know every law of physics and be a complete loser. Knowledge is only power to the effect that you allow it to change you so that you can change the situation around you, your sphere of influence. Imagine a circle around your heart, right? That's your first sphere of influence. Influence yourself. You can't influence yourself, you are not going to positively impact anybody else. Second, the next sphere of influence, a little bit further around you, and that's going to be your family, your friends, etc. And then the next one, larger and larger. Eventually, right, now you're impacting the world, the universe. Okay, great. But guys, you start on the inside. And when I took my philosophy classes, I literally changed. Like I would walk out and I would see the world differently. There was one specific school of thought that I just absolutely pretty much fell in love with, and that was the Stoics. Some of my heroes like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, these guys were Stoics. They were powerful men. They didn't walk around and study philosophy because the only chance they had in life was to be a philosopher. Dude, Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on the planet during his time as a Roman emperor. Seneca was a great statesman, a great businessman. These people really had it down. And they found that Stoic philosophy, a way of seeing the world, a rule book for their lives, greatly impacted them. And one of the things, and we call it now differently than what it was used to called, But one of the things that they swear by is something that I swear by. I teach my kids, teach my wife, talk to everybody about it that I can. That is called negative visualization. What I mean by that is this. Typically, we do not care until we think we're going to lose it. Let me give you that again by way of example. Do you remember as a kid in middle school, you had a crush on somebody, somebody had a crush on you, and you didn't care. You didn't like them back. You didn't reciprocate the crush. It was unrequited love. Until all of a sudden that person liked somebody else. And the rumors started to spread, and all of a sudden you're like, no, you have a crush on me. You can't have a crush on anybody else. Do you know what I'm talking about? This could be a whole number of things, guys. I'm giving you a juvenile example to hopefully resonate with the entire audience, but this could be when you're playing a board game, Monopoly, a very particular square that you don't care about until somebody else gets it. Like, just as humans, for some reason, it must go back to our early tribal days. When we think we are going to lose something, regardless of the meaning that it had to us, we suddenly desperately want it back. And the more meaning that it had to us, the more we want it. There are so many people who are making just enough money with their businesses or whatever that they don't give it the TLC that it needs. Their relationships, they don't give it the TLC that it needs until suddenly it's going to be ripped away from them. And then guess what happens when it's ripped away? You carry that debt of sadness forever. One particular one that I'm working on right now is time with my kids. Like, I realize that it's finite, but freak, I've got so many things I'm trying to do. When the kids get home and I'm right in the middle of something, and my son comes up and he's like, hey, Dad, let's play catch. It's really hard for me to say, yeah, man, let's do it. Literally, I usually say, all right, come grab me in an hour. Like, I try to answer both calls of my attention, for my business and professional life. And then as a father and as a husband, let me tell you what really works, all right? I'm going to ask you by way of a question. You've got two dads, okay? Both of them lose a child in some tragic accident. The one father stupidly thought that he would have his entire life with him. He thought he would die first. Well, he's older. Makes sense, right? So every time the child ran up and was like, no, Dad, or every time he ran up and he was like, hey, Dad, come play catch with me, he was like, no, later. I've got all this. I've got the newspaper to read, and there's a cool thing on my Facebook feed. Let me read all these conspiracies first. And just never really got around to it because, guys, we like to selfishly use our time. And our kids live with us. Our spouses live with us. We can see them anytime. Son tragically dies. Think of the regret that man carries with him. And on the other hand, you've got a man that practices negative visualization. What that is it's when you sit down and in a moment of solitude and trance-like conditions, so you're just clearing your mind of thoughts, and if you don't clear them, it's okay, but you imagine something negative. You imagine your child passing away. That sounds macabre. I know it does, but hear me out on this. You go through it. You imagine it so intensely that you actually experience the emotions. If you cry during one of these moments, you've done it. You literally go through the emotion of one of these negative experiences, losing your business, losing the car that you spent your entire adult life earning up to save for. What happens when you come to and you realize that you still have it? You realize it the whole time, but you really not need to get into this for it to work. You suddenly appreciate it so much more. The dad that practiced negative visualization when his son said, play catch with me, he said, let's do it, man. That's what he did. The recognition that everything that you have in your life right now is nothing more than a happy accident that could very well be gone tomorrow is incredibly liberating. Incredibly liberating. The business that you have, maybe it's not where you want it, but it's more than you had yesterday, that could all be gone tomorrow, that it's a happy accident, that it's fleeting, temporary. Realizing that could very easily fall out from underneath you tomorrow. If you're in e-commerce, you get your ad account taken away. If you're in brick and mortar, you get sued. And they go after your building. Whatever the case may be, get on with negative visualization because two things occur. One, you experience gratitude. Gratitude is more powerful than I can express. I can't express how powerful it is. It does something to you. And number two, if the bad thing actually does happen, and usually when you anticipate the worst thing seldom happens, but if it does, or something in between, you're far more prepared to deal with it. Because in a moment of solitude, you experienced it and anticipated it. Please recognize that everything in your life is nothing more than a happy accident. And that you are lucky to have it. And you will not have to go through losing it to appreciate it. Both business and life. My friends, much love, much respect. Talk tomorrow.